Do you want to end up exactly like your parents? Like, I love my parents, but that is truly my deepest fear. And if you don't want to end up like your parents, because if your parents don't have money, your blueprint around money and financial freedom and setting yourself up for life is also geared the exact same way as they are. Why that's so important is I was recently reading a Harvard Business Review article where they looked at where the values and the beliefs in our life, which create our habits, and our habits create our financial outcome in the future, come from. And what they found is that 95% of the way that we operate in terms of the back of our mind, our subconscious mind, our values and our beliefs that we sometimes don't even know we have, come from the time between 0 and 6 years of age. So think about everything that you know and where you operate from and everything that you've learned up until this point. The reality is all of that stuff is frontal lobe stuff, that's logical stuff, but if your values and your beliefs sitting in the back of your brain are in line with being broke, with being unhappy, without being financially free, and that's the blueprint that you grew up with, the chances of you actually achieving what it is that you want in your life without recognizing and working through that are insane. And that shocked me. It scared the shit out of me as someone who didn't grow up in a household when I was very young with a lot of money. In fact, money was bad. People with money were bad people or greedy people. I've had to work through a lot of that stuff, and the reason I've decided to change my destiny or my financial income in my life is because I don't want to have fights in my family anymore about money. I remember growing up around the dinner table and mum and dad sometimes would have massive blow-ups around money, or they would have to make decisions based on money, and I decided that I would find a way out of all of that. So if you don't want to end up broke, if you don't want to end up on the pension, if you don't want to be living off your super for the first 10 years of retirement and then getting on the pension, you need to really start thinking about what the key people in your life are like. What are your partner's parents like? What are your parents like? What are the people that you were growing up around? What was the environment like then? What was the thoughts around money? And for most of us in Australia, because most people do end up broke or on the pension, our association to money is bad. And that's why we've got these concepts in Australia like words like tall poppy syndrome, which is just really an expression for someone doing okay in their life financially. And so as Australians, rather than ask them how they're doing well or learn from these people, we try and cut them down. And that's why wealthy people hang out with other wealthy people in wealthy suburbs, and poor people hang out with other poor people in poor suburbs. And that has always been the case, and it's always going to be the case. So what I want for myself and my future, and what I want for you in your future, is a change from wherever you've come from. It doesn't have to be the same moving forward. And I want to share my story a little bit in relation to this one, which I do like to talk about my story a little bit, but not too much in terms of the details. But I effectively came from an environment where, I lived in a caravan till I was 4 years of age in my grandma's driveway while my parents saved some money for our first home. Mum looked after us 4 kids, and dad went to work for other people. Money was a contentious thing in our house for a long time, like it was for a lot of people in the 80s, because my parents got absolutely stung by those ridiculously high interest rates that, would have bankrupted a lot of people at that time. But my dad worked his ass off and grinded his way out of it. And I'll never forget one of these stories of his, which is, he used to collect his coins over the course of the week, which is all that was left over. And he'd drive through the bottle shop on a Friday, grab himself one beer on the way home, and, that was his sort of treat to himself. Like, that's how hard and lean those times were in those late 80s with interest rates being so high. And over the course of time, as I grew up, I saw my dad take the punt and buy a business and then turn it into a very successful business, which has now been running for almost 15 years. And I'm so proud of that because, I saw our position when we grew up where mum and dad had a lot of fights about money, and money was tough, to the point where, mum and dad set up this great business, and mum and I have set up a business as well. And, that sort of changed their position. But because my mum and dad grew up with this blueprint of, you know, effectively being broke. You know, dad's parents didn't have any money, mum's parents didn't have anything but their own home. They never went out and invested that money that they were making. So no matter how much money they've made in their businesses since then, they've still never actually gone out and bought an asset that wasn't, you know, something in super, which is some shitty managed fund, probably from a shitty financial advisor. And, you know, it distresses me because at 60 plus years of age and 55 for my mum, 60 plus for my dad, they've still got to work in their businesses and they still have to continue to work, and they're still contemplating and thinking about how they're going to physically survive in retirement without ending up on the pension. Now, both of them have gone and bought their own home. Both of them have done very, very well from property over the course of the years. I think between them, they've bought 5 different homes that they've lived in and held for long enough to make good gains, but they never put that excess money that they've created over their lifetime into assets. And instead of being completely financially free at this stage of life, they're still having to work really hard. And I don't say this in any way negative, but I wanted to share my story. Like, I absolutely love and idolize my mum and my dad, and I go to them for all of my advice. But, you know, if I didn't change the blueprint that I grew up, and 95% of the information that I make decisions from in the back of my mind was learnt from them, then I'm just going to go on and repeat what they want. But I made a change after I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad book at 23 years of age to figure this stuff out, to improve my financial acumen, and to create a plan which I've slowly rolled out over the last 10 years to put myself and my family in a much better financial position. So that plan has been simple: work for other really successful people and learn from them, invest the excess money from my wage into property, and then start businesses after the property side of things was going well, and then use that excess money from businesses to pay off debt or buy more property. Now, property might not be everybody's cup of tea. I completely get it. Business might not be everyone's cup of tea. I get it. I'm not saying business or property is the way to do it, because you've got to have a certain skill set to do well in that space. But what I am saying is that if you want something different than what you grew up with, then at some point you have to take personal responsibility for your life and actually create the life that you want. And that might start with education. It might start with creating a budget. It might start with creating some surplus income or some savings. Then it might be some investing, and then later down the line it could be anything else. But you've got to start somewhere, and I don't want to see you broke. I don't want to see you on the pension like 80% of my generation will end up being. I don't want to have to continue to pay all of this money to tax because people didn't think about their financial future and people never set themselves up. And so as a taxpayer or as an income earner, all of this surplus money is going to supporting people who never took responsibility for their lives and never decided to figure this stuff out. Like, if you're watching this video, it means that you want to change in your life, and I don't want the way that you grew up to affect where you end up in the future. Now, what I've got to say about this is it's going to take time to become financially free. It's going to take time to learn this stuff. If you're 30 years of age now, or 40 years of age, and you're not financially free, or you don't have any investments, or you're not running a business, then that's 40 or 30 years of conditioning on top of that first 6 years where you learnt 95% of the stuff that you're operating from that you've got to change. Now, if it's taken you 40 years, do you think it's going to take longer than 6 months to sort of figure this stuff out and get to where you want to be? Fucking oath it's going to take longer than 6 months. In fact, it's probably going to take a lot longer than you expect. But 5 years from now, your life can look completely different. 15 years from now, you could be completely financially free. And if you're 30 or 40 years of age, that means you're retiring or have the ability to have choices in your life at 45 or 55, as opposed to grinding it out for the rest of your life like everybody else chooses to do, because they don't consume this content. They don't learn from people that have actually been there and done it and achieved freedom at an early age. So I want the absolute best for you. One really, really simple way of sitting at home, either on your own or with your partner or with your husband or with your wife is to pull out a piece of paper and to just get real about this shit. Like, you know, what was your parents' financial position when you were growing up? What's your parents' financial position now? Now, some people like me are lucky enough to see their parents change their position in life, and that is a beautiful story to watch. But other people's parents, like my parents' parents, you know, grinded away through their lifetime with, unfortunately, nothing financially to show for a lifetime of work. So, you know, sit down and on that piece of paper, look at your parents' position, you know, when they were having you. Look at it now. Look at your position. Like, get real about your position. If you're 30 years of age or 45 years of age, you've probably been working since you were 18 or 20. What the fuck have you been doing for 12 years with your money if you're 30? Or if you're 40 or 50 and you're still not financially free and don't have a plan for it and have been burying your head in the sand or waiting for the next market correction or listening to the media constantly or hanging around people that aren't financially free all of that time, like, shake yourself, look at yourself in the mirror, as brutal as this is, like I've done for myself, and I'm looking at myself in this camera right now and going, what have I been doing? Like, what happened to the last 10 years of our lives? And what was our position 10 years ago? What is it today? How much more savings do you have? How much more assets do you have? How close to financial freedom are you? How much passive income is coming into your day or your week without you actually getting out of bed and going to work? And this is a really confronting thing to do, and it's meant to be. It's meant to shock you. You know, if you've spent the last 10 years of your life working 40 hours a week, 48 to 50 weeks a year, and you have nothing to show for it, then don't make the next 10 years like that. If you've been doing that for 20 or 30 years, you know, unfortunately this is the norm, but don't make the next 10 years or 5 years or 20 years like this. If you hate your job every day, then the quickest way out of it is to set yourself up for financial freedom so that you can get the fuck out of it as quickly as possible. If you hate your job that much, then retrain yourself and get choices in your life and move into an industry that you enjoy. If you are an industry that makes shit money, then retrain yourself in an industry where people make good money. And it's really easy. Just jump on Seek's website and look at the top paid industries. Find which of those jobs that you enjoy. You know, take yourself out of this situation where you have to live a one-dimensional life and just do what everyone else around you is doing and start figuring this stuff out. You know, it could be as simple as slowly investing money in high quality stocks in the market. You know, go and talk to someone who's already financially free from stocks. Or if you're interested in business, you know, go and work for a couple of small businesses where the people are making really good money, learn from what they're doing, find a niche and create an opportunity for yourself. If property's your vehicle like it is, for me, then save that deposit or take some of the equity out of your own home and go buy a really high quality, secure, low risk asset that over the next 15 to 20 years can set you and your family up. But don't keep burying your head in the sand and expecting things to change if you're not prepared to do any of the work or change. And the fact that you're watching this video and have subscribed to my YouTube channel below or listening to my podcast, The Pumped on Property Show, on Apple or Spotify, you know, is evidence that you are changing stuff. Now, I know a lot of you guys listening to this are already in a kick-ass position and you're like, Ben, shut the fuck up, stop doing another one of your rants talking about people that are just getting started. But the reality is, you know, I'm not in the financial position that I want to be in. I'm in a much better position than where I was 2 years ago. I'm in a way better position than I was 5 years ago. And I'm in a crazy different world position than I was 10 years ago. But I'm still not where I want to be. I'm still working towards achieving the financial freedom that I'm after for my family. And for all of us, it is a process of learning, of growing, of moving towards where we want to be. So don't let your upbringing keep making you broke. Stop making excuses about it and start changing it. Educate yourself. Do that little exercise that will scare the shit out of you about, you know, where your parents are and where they were, or where you were and where you are now. And create a plan. Like, have a New Year's resolution for 2019 that it's not just going to be another year where you wait for the whole world to fall in your lap and nothing happens, and you create a plan to start that business, to change that job, to work less and spend more time educating yourself, to invest in the right quality assets in the right market at the right time, and to really start figuring out these dots. And I just had the best conversation with two of my clients, and one of them, his name's Maria. She lives on the Central Coast. She is an absolute legend, and she 12 months ago came to me absolutely petrified about the thought of investing in property. She owned her own home, which she was thinking about selling because she just felt so uncomfortable with it. In the last 12 months, she's got so educated about the market. We've had huge conversations about ideas for the future. She's built a granny flat on her property in the Central Coast, which will give her another $370 a week of passive income. She's also bought a really high quality piece of land really close to Brisbane. The suburb, since she bought it with us, has gone up by 12% in 12 months. She is going to build a brand new house and a brand new dual income property, 21 k's from the city, for just over $500,000. It's going to rent for over $650 a week. Now she's got one house on the coast with a granny flat, another house up here with a granny flat, and all she has to do is figure out how to pay that off outright. Now Marie's at an awesome age because she's really young. She's like in her 40s and she's kicking ass, and she's not going to be working in her insurance job for the rest of her life or to retirement age like everyone else, even though she enjoys what she does. I just had another awesome chat with a younger client of ours that we worked with in 2016-17, Connor. He lives in Melbourne. He's a chippy, an absolute legend of a dude. This guy is, young in his 30s, maybe even late 20s, Connor. Sorry, man, I'm not sure. But he owns a commercial property in Melbourne. His partner owns a unit in Melbourne, and he also bought an investment property up here for $350,000, just over 20 k's from the city, a year and a half ago, which is now worth more like 400k. So he's made a bit of equity. He's going to add a granny flat on it, and he said, Ben, for the next couple of years or next 5 years, I just want to focus on lifestyle and paying down some debt. And I said, cool. Like, he just has this dream of owning 3 or 4 properties outright in the future. But why this is important is these people were scared. These people felt overloaded with information. These people felt the challenges in their life. They are time poor, they're busy, they're working, they've got all sorts of shit going on. They didn't necessarily have partners that believed in property or supported them. But over the last couple of years or 12 months, these guys have really put their heads down, put their blinders on, and focused on creating the life that they want. Now, both of them know that in the property market, like the share market or any other market in the world, prices can go up, prices can go flat, and prices can come down, and sometimes they can come down hard. But over a 15 to 20 year period, they also know that the marketplace can be very, very forgiving, and so they're looking at setting themselves up for the long term, not chasing the short term money. And I just love that about that. Like, they didn't come from a place where they had any money or their parents had any money. Neither of them started with a silver spoon. Everything they've done is themselves. But they are working towards changing their mindset, changing their beliefs, changing their education. Started with putting a plan in place, and now are just executing that plan. And of course they feel fear. Of course they don't like looking at their bank account some days when there's big debt. Of course when a tenant moves out of a property, they get a bit concerned until they find another one. But these people are moving forward in the direction of their dreams, because ultimately financial freedom means just one thing. And that one thing is simple, and that is having choices in your life at an age when you're still young enough to fucking enjoy them. Because having choices when you're 80 years of age and don't have your health anymore is not the time you want health, not the time you want choices. Although you do want the choice to have money so that you can look after yourself better, and hopefully you've still got your health too. But the reality is you want choices at 40, you want choices at 50, you want choices at 60 when you're young, or 30 when you feel fresh and you're excited about your life and you're chasing your dreams and you've got income coming in so that you can start that business or spend more time with your family or work less or travel more or change careers and do a job that you actually enjoy instead of something that you hate every day, or spend more time with your kids, or drop those kids off to school, or whatever your why is in your life. Financial freedom gives you those choices. So I hope you've enjoyed this little rant. It feels like I've been on a good one now. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. I just wish you all the best. And as someone that effectively has come from nothing, everything that I've built has been on my own, but not on my own, because I'm so grateful for my mum and dad to give me great values. Like, I come from a place where I care about people. I come from a place where I work hard. I come from a place where I've been taught to think strategically. And I come from a place where I'm lucky enough to be able to have a crack in Australia at this sort of stuff and change my future, because the American dream is no longer the American dream. They could retitle it the Australian dream, because the average Aussie is 4 times wealthier than an American, and we have these opportunities in this land where the population is going to, I was reading the other day, by 2066, we're going to be over 50 million people. Like, that's what made America so great for so long, because they just had this influx of population growth over time, and all of these people coming into the country with new ideas. And that's why their property prices soared and boomed and bust for so long, because they had this incredible population growth and resources under the ground, exactly like we do, which means that the future for Australia, regardless of what they're saying on A Current Affair tonight, looks really, really good for the long term. Obviously, short term, who knows? But I wish you all the best. Don't end up with where your parents are financially if, they end up broke. Don't work till you're 60 or 70. You don't have to. Create a plan for 2019 and make some shit happen. So if you want some help thinking about 2019 and your options, please jump over to my website, www.pumpedonproperty.com. Book a free strategy session in with my brother or myself, and let's talk about where you are, where you want to be, what's really holding you back, and what your fear is. Because the reality is, if you were brought up broke, then you've got a shitload of fear about success. You've got a shitload of fear about failure. You're probably feeling some information overload. You probably don't have too many people in your life that are like-minded that you can talk to about this stuff. You probably don't have a mentor or a coach or a kick-ass team around you. So we can uncover these things. Then we can talk about a strategy for property for you, or some ideas about what's going on over the next few years. And then you can just go off and execute that on your own, or you can be one of the 5 clients that we take on each month to help them actually hold their hands through this journey and ultimately walk them towards financial freedom. So I wish you all the best. Pull your head out of the sand. Look forward to the next couple of years. It is going to be the buying opportunity, particularly in Southeast Queensland, of the last decade. I'm not saying prices are going to rush away like they did in Sydney and Melbourne. It's just going to be probably flat or a little bit up. But there is a huge buying opportunity, while a lot of other Australians are listening to the media and not doing much. And I think from about 2020, 2021, we'll be starting to see the fruits of these labours, and your life will be in a much better position. So good luck. I wish you all the best, and thanks for listening to my rant.